As of this past weekend, more than 14,000 people had to flee their homes in the path of 4 separate wildfires burning out of control in the northwest corner of Montana. With over 30,000 acres already burned and the fires only 2% contained, it's one of the largest and most destructive wildfire complexes in recent memory. The fire was so massive that its perimeter was no longer fully visible even from a plane, forcing firefighters to rely on computer models to track its spread. Meanwhile, another major fire burns through the Angeles National Forest just 40 miles from downtown Los Angeles, turning the sky orange and prompting evacuations of over 17,000 people. Last week, the McKinney fire burning in Northern California had forced evacuations and destroyed dozens of buildings near the Oregon border, growing to become the largest wildfire in California this year. While firefighting crews battled these blazes in triple-digit heat, thousands more are forced to evacuate their homes with little time to spare, and more frequent wildfires that has been gripping the western U.S. for decades. For example, some pine cones need the intense heat of a wildfire to open up and release their seeds into the forest floor below. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening right now. A warmer climate means hotter, drier conditions that lead to earlier spring snowmelt and a longer period of time when vegetation is dry and ready to burn. Earlier green-up coupled with later autumn senescence or the yellowing and drying of vegetation means a longer period of time when vegetation is both dry and is early ignited. The hottest fires also result in more complete consumption of understory vegetation, leaving behind only the most fire-resistant plants and trees. But it's also important to note that these factors don't just lead to more fires, they lead to more complicated fires that are more difficult to fight. Drones to assess fire behavior and weather balloons to collect data about smoke and air quality. They're becoming more and more difficult to fight, and if left unchecked, the damage they cause will only grow worse. These tools still require boots on the ground to operate. Thank you for watching and for staying informed with us. If you want to learn more about the issues we tackle each day, check out our website. As fires become larger and more intense, they require more resources and personnel to manage, putting firefighters at greater risk of injury and burnout, while also diverting critical resources away from other fires. And with more fires burning longer and hotter than ever before, the system is struggling to keep up. While some wildfires can be allowed to burn naturally, many pose a serious threat to nearby communities and infrastructure and have to be managed by firefighters, who use a variety of tactics to try and prevent the fires from spreading and causing damage. These tactics include firing back controlled burns to consume fuel ahead of the main fire, building and reinforcing fire lines or breaks that the fire can't cross, dropping fire retardant to slow the fire spread, and extinguishing hotspots within the fire area to reduce its intensity. But these tactics are unfoolproof, and they become even more challenging during periods of extreme fire behavior when resources like water and manpower are stretched thin. While this can be good for forest health in small doses, it can lead to massive, uncontrollable fires when entire forests are consumed and leave behind landscapes that are even more prone to burning in the future. It also means more fuel is available to feed fires, since there's more dead vegetation lying around. And it's not just the length of fire season that's increasing either. Its intensity is also growing as temperatures rise, meaning fires ignite more easily and spread more quickly once they do ignite. Higher temperatures also mean drier fuels and lower humidity levels, both of which allow fires to spread more rapidly and burn more intensely. Hotter fires lead to more intense fire whirls or vortices of awfulness that incinerate everything in their path and allow fires to move faster uphill and across previously unburnable terrain. Since 1971, the average annual temperature in the Western U.S. has increased by about 3 degrees Fahrenheit, which may not sound like much, but that's led to a 20% reduction in April snowpack, according to a study by the National Academy of Sciences. Less snowpack in the spring means less water is available to feed rivers during the summer months, but it also means that vegetation is left high and dry before the end of summer, leading to tinderbox conditions that are ripe for the picking when lightning strikes or humans spark a flame. Though wildfires have always been a part of the American West, recent years have seen a surge in the number and size of fires that threaten not just local ecosystems but the communities surrounding our forests and rangelands. This is due to a perfect storm of conditions that include hotter temperatures, longer fire seasons, drier vegetation, and more people living and recreating in wildland urban interface area. All these factors have combined to increase the likelihood of severe fires and pose a serious threat to lives, property, and public safety. And while fire can decimate populations of some animals, it also creates new habitat and food sources for others. In fact, fire-adapted plants like the iconic lodgepole pine rely on fire not just for seed dispersal, but for their very survival. Lodgepole pines grow well in areas that burn frequently, which means they have to be able to withstand fire, or they wouldn't survive for long. To adapt, they've evolved to produce thick bark and serotinous cones that only open when exposed to intense heat. These adaptations allow forests to thrive after fires, creating landscapes shaped and renewed by fire that support an incredible diversity of species. But, despite the damage they cause, There's a lot to learn from these fires, including what's fueling them, how firefighting efforts work, and why the future looks so grim. So what is causing these massive, fast-moving wildfires and the world today, and how you can get involved to help make a difference? We believe that knowledge is power, and that the more we know about the challenges we face, the better equipped we are to tackle them together. And how will climate change continue to impact wildfire season in the months ahead? That's what we're going to find out today. First off, thank you for checking out our channel, where we break down the biggest issues facing the country in an average year. Around 3 to 5 million acres burn across the western US, with most of those acres lost to fires and just a few large fires. In 2021 alone, more than 7 million acres burned, making it the third worst year on record. And as of August of this year, nearly 6 million acres have already been lost, signaling that 2022 will likely be even worse than last year. And all signs point to this trend continuing unless something drastic changes. So while the scale of this year's fires might seem unusually large, it is actually part of a disturbingly familiar pattern of increasingly larger. The first thing you should know about wildfires is that they are a natural ecosystem renewing process that is essential to the survival of many forest and grassland species. Of course, these benefits come at a cost, and when fires become too frequent or too intense, they can quickly turn from beneficial to devastating. But by far the most important factor driving the increase in wildfire frequency and severity is a changing climate. To make matters worse, the combination of higher temperatures and lower precipitation also leads to earlier spring greenup, or the time when plants begin growing new leaves and stems after winter dormancy. But perhaps most importantly, warmer temperatures mean drier fuels and lower humidity levels, both of which allow fires to spread more rapidly and burn more intensely. With all these trends working against us, it's no wonder why this year's fires are so severe. And while technology can play an important role in fighting fires, such as using infrared cameras to identify hotspots, that's why it is so important to understand the factors are contributing to these massive fires, because with every passing year. That's all for today from our channel.